The clatter of dishes and the low hum of fluorescent lights filled the small diner, tucked between a gas station and a pawn shop on the edge of downtown. Ethan moved quietly behind the counter, wiping down tables and stacking plates with practiced ease. To the regulars, he was just the quiet night guy, always polite, always tired, and never one to talk about himself. But there was something about him. The way his eyes scanned every entrance, how his back was never turned to the door, how his posture was relaxed but ready. At a corner booth sat his daughter, Lily, her legs swinging as she flipped through a second-hand picture book. She was the reason he worked nights, the reason he kept his past buried. Everything he did now, every silent, humble hour, was for her. Outside, the streets were nearly empty, the sky bruised with the last traces of daylight. Ethan stepped out the back to dump the trash when something unusual caught his eye. A black van parked across the street, engine idling, its tinted windows obscuring whoever sat inside. It wasn't the van itself, but the stillness of it that bothered him. No movement. No music. Just waiting. He lingered a moment longer than usual, narrowing his eyes, instincts prickling. Years ago, he might have dismissed it. But those years had also taught him to trust the gut feelings that once kept him alive. He glanced back at the diner, and at Lily. Something told him this night wasn't going to stay quiet. The clatter of a falling tray from the restaurant across the street snapped Ethan to attention. He turned just in time to see a struggle near the alley beside the upscale bistro. A woman, well-dressed, heels scraping pavement, was being forced toward the black van by two men. No one on the street noticed. No one was close enough to help. Except him. He dropped the trash bag silently and moved, not with panic, but with chilling precision. Years of training flooded back, uninvited but welcome. His footsteps were soundless as he slipped across the street and into the alley's shadow. One of the men pulled the van door open while the other shoved the woman inside. Her eyes were wild, terrified, but still fighting. Ethan struck fast. His elbow caught the first man's throat before he could yell. The second turned, too slow. A sharp twist, a low grunt, and he was down too. The woman staggered back, trembling. Ethan stepped in front of her, shielded her with his body, eyes scanning for more threats. The van door slammed. A third figure bolted from the driver's seat and ran. Ethan didn't chase, he focused on the woman, her breath sharp and ragged. She clutched his arm. Who are you?" she gasped. "Just a dad," he said, watching the red-blue lights grow nearer. Moments later, the police arrived. The woman, unharmed but shaken, was identified as Olivia Hart, one of the country's most powerful CEOs. And Ethan? He simply disappeared into the crowd, back toward the diner. The hospital waiting room was quiet, filled with the soft rustle of papers and distant beeping from machines. Olivia sat alone, wrapped in a blanket the nurse had given her, still processing the events of the night. For all her power and status, she had never felt so helpless, until someone unexpected saved her. She had to see him again, to understand why he walked away without asking for anything. When the door opened, she stood. Ethan entered, holding the hand of his daughter. Lily was small, maybe 8, with bright eyes and a teddy bear tucked under one arm. The contrast was striking. This man who took down armed kidnappers now looked like a gentle father, worn but present. Olivia smiled, unsure of what to say. "I wanted to make sure you were okay," Ethan said simply. "I am, thanks to you," Olivia replied, her voice soft. She looked down at Lily. "You must be very proud of your dad." Lily beamed. "He's my hero." They sat together, and slowly, Olivia began to ask questions. Ethan shared only pieces of his story, a military background, the loss of Lily's mother, the night shifts to keep food on the table. He didn't boast. He didn't complain. He just loved his daughter enough to carry the weight of everything quietly. Olivia felt something shift in her chest, a kind of admiration she hadn't felt in years. She came to thank a stranger, but instead found someone who reminded her of everything she'd forgotten about real strength. Ethan wasn't expecting anyone that morning, especially not Olivia. She stood at his doorstep holding grocery bags, dressed casually but still somehow elegant. Her presence in the worn-down hallway of his apartment building felt surreal. Lily peeked from behind her father's leg, her eyes lighting up when she recognized Olivia. They welcomed her in, the small apartment tidy but clearly lived in. The three of them sat at the cramped kitchen table, the ceiling fan above ticking softly as it spun. Olivia placed the groceries on the counter without a word, then turned to Ethan with a look that held more than gratitude. "You gave me back my life," she said, her voice steady. "Now I want to give something back to you." Ethan raised an eyebrow, unsure where this was going. Olivia slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a formal offer: head of personal security for her company, a 6-figure salary, full benefits, and relocation to a safer home with a good school for Lily. It was everything he had silently wished for but never believed he could have. He looked up, conflicted. "I'm not looking for a handout." Olivia shook her head. "This isn't a handout. It's a door opening, for all of us." Lily reached for the envelope curiously, her eyes wide with hope. Ethan looked at her, then at Olivia. His voice broke slightly. "All right, for her." In that moment, something shifted. Not just circumstances, but hearts. What began as rescue had become redemption. For both of them, sunlight poured into the modern office space through tall windows, illuminating the sleek design and calm energy that filled the room. Ethan stood by the glass, dressed in a tailored suit, his posture strong and steady. He looked nothing like the man scrubbing dishes in a diner just months ago, but the quiet focus in his eyes hadn't changed. He was still watching, still protecting. Only now, he had purpose and peace. Outside the window, a team of trained security staff ran drills under his supervision. Nearby, laughter echoed from the daycare room. Lily was playing with a group of kids, her face lit up with pure joy. For the first time in her life, she didn't have to worry. She was safe, happy, and home. Olivia stepped into the room, holding 2 cups of coffee. She offered one to Ethan with a smile, watching him as he looked out at his daughter. "She's thriving," she said softly. Ethan nodded. "So am I." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, both changed by the journey they had shared. Olivia looked at him with something more than gratitude, something deeper. "You didn't just save my life, Ethan. You reminded me what it means to really live." He glanced at her, eyes warm. "You gave me a future I didn't think I'd ever have." Lily ran in, arms outstretched, hugging her father tightly. As he held her close, Olivia smiled. Sometimes, the right moment, and the right people, can rewrite a life entirely.